is Anna Holcomb Bronner. I am 23 years old and I am a third grade teacher at Livonia Elementary School in Livonia, Georgia.
How was your life as a child?
As a child, I was the youngest of 4 siblings. Oldest sister, and she is 30, and then a sister who's 28, and a brother who is 25, and I am currently 23. And so there was a decent age gap, but a pretty close one at the same time. We all grew up together. We really didn't have a lot of electronics and like other things like that. We were just very close with our relationships and played a lot outside. We're very close as a family, and I'm very thankful for that. We also were homeschooled, so that made it a little more unique because instead of going to school for most of our time, we spent a lot of time together. So we really had to get along and had to spend quality time because we were forced to. And I think that has kind of helped mold me into the person I am today. It was a very unique experience, and I had a lot more flexibility than kids my age who were going to school to do things that I wanted to do. And a lot of that family dynamic was pretty strong when I was younger. A lot of that changed when my father passed away, and that was kind of tough to figure out how to manage.
How has your life circumstances, such as your father's passing, allowed you to turn the sorrow into something positive?
I feel like that my family dynamic changed a lot when my father passed, and I kind of had to get used to what was the new normal for everyone. We kind of grew apart as well as together in different ways, but he was such a bright light in my life, and I always wanted to make him proud, whether he was here on earth or watching over us. And I was able to take that drive to make him proud and that motivation to make him proud and finish college, graduated valedictorian with my associate's and bachelor's degree from Emmanuel College, and landed a teaching job, thankfully. And I think in the end, I always wanted to be able to help others who are grieving, and I didn't really expect it to be so soon that I would be able to do so, because this is my first year teaching, but I've already had 2 different students who have lost significant people in their lives, and have just had a tough time with it because they don't really know how to handle it. And I've been able to use that to help them, and I have them kind of draw a picture or something that can turn that sadness into something positive, and then I wind up laminating it and sending it home with them. It's just like a special memory of how we can turn our grieving and our sadness into happy memories and remember good times of those people and making them proud.
What advice would you give to someone who is dealing with the loss of someone dear to them?
I think that the biggest advice that I would give them was advice that was given to me or that I found. And when I lost my dad, as ironic and silly as it sounds, I saw something on Facebook that really stuck with me and has continued to stick with me 6 years later. And it's something called the ball in the box. And so I drew a picture for you to kind of help understand. But essentially, there's a ball in a box, and inside the box is a pain receptor or a pain button and a ball. And so when you first lose someone, the ball is representing your grief, and it's really big. It takes up most of the box, and it continuously hits that pain button. So you continually feel hurt, you continually feel angry, sad, all of those emotions that are involved with pain and with grief. And a lot of times people always want to say that with time things get better and they can heal. And that is true, but at the same time, it's partially what I've found to be not true, because that pain is still just as relevant and just as sharp and intense. But what happens is over time, your grief becomes smaller. So your ball or your grief actually hits your pain button a lot less frequently. So when they say it heals with time, it's not that it feels any better when it does hit. It's just that it doesn't hit as often, and therefore you're able to kind of get on with life and find more positive things to look forward to. It just means that those death dates, those anniversaries, and then a random Tuesday every now and then, it hits, it's hard, it hurts, and you're able to move on from it instead of a continual feeling of sadness and grief.
It's your first year teaching. How has COVID-19 had an effect on teaching your third graders?
Essentially, I don't have anything to compare it to since it is my first year, but compared to other people's comments and concerns for first year teachers, it has been quite a year. And personally for me, it has been quite a year. I've never been so sick and so worn down. And I think that for me, getting COVID personally within the first year of teaching, it was a big, I don't even know the right word for it. It was a big letdown, I guess, for me. It kind of made me feel almost like a failure not being able to be here for my kids. And my kids that were doing so well and succeeding in school, academically, socially, all of the aspects that you would want for them were falling apart. They didn't have the consistency they needed, and they didn't have that structure and that safety that they really deserve and need in a year like this. So it's been tough trying to come back now that I'm feeling a little better to a classroom that feels like they've missed a lot.
So you had COVID-19 at the beginning of this year. When did you have COVID-19 and what was your experience with coronavirus?
Okay, so I had COVID-19. I was tested on January 9th, and technically after my 2 weeks were over, I was able to come back to work, but was physically unable to come back to work. So although I could have, I couldn't physically, and was actually out for about 6 to 7 weeks. And my post-COVID symptoms and problems and complications were much more severe than when I even had COVID. So I had the typical symptoms, and then after 2 weeks I had double pneumonia, I had a racing heartbeat and struggled breathing, and then I had significant joint swelling and pain, which eventually just turned into overall pain all over my body. And I went to the doctor what felt like a million times, and we did blood work, we did labs, we did examinations all over, and eventually ruled out a lot of things and found out that I have fibromyalgia.
So what is fibromyalgia?
So fibromyalgia is a musculoskeletal disease that affects your pain receptors in your body, and it sends pain signals to you when you're not necessarily supposed to be in pain. So essentially, if someone were to like step on your foot or like slam themselves down on the ground and hit your leg, your body is supposed to react by sending pain signals. But this is very different because your body is reacting like a traumatized event has happened, but there isn't any trauma. And it just means that you have a lot of pain and fatigue.
What is your biggest takeaway with being a teacher so far?
Since this is my first year and it's been such a crazy year, I'd say that there are lots of takeaways I've learned up to this point. Obviously, there's much more to learn and to take away from this job, and it is a very rewarding job. But one of the greatest and most fulfilling parts is being able to make a difference for kids, whether that's academically, socially, emotionally. A lot of kids don't come from the best backgrounds. They don't come with the nicest things, the most knowledge, the greatest family and home life, and I hope to kind of use the time that I have them here to provide them with the best that I can give them, and to make them feel safe and loved and supported and safe enough to make mistakes, and as Miss Frizzle would say, make mistakes get messy, and just be able to take a risk. I think that a lot of students are scared or unsure of themselves at the age that I am teaching, and I want them to know that it's okay to take risks, that we're not judging them, and we're all kind of like a classroom family. There's no harm in being yourself, and I think that's one of the biggest takeaways for me so far, and one of my biggest goals in the future is to be able to provide that.
This is my mama and papa Norton. They were very dear to me. Anna overall taught me that we all have a grief button, and it's very hard to heal, and you may never fully heal from losing a loved one, but we can all look for the positive things in life and overall know that they're watching over us.